Okay, our beloved PM can scream from the Mount Everest if he wants to, not just the Red Fort, to say that ease of business has been improved. But the reality is that Indian government and all the state governments have practically done nothing for the ease of business, just because doing in business is almost impossible. And there is a reason why Indian businesses are moving their headquarters to Singapore or Dubai or any other places, just because it's have become suffocating for Indian business or any business to survive. And I don't care if Indian government claims that it has made our Indian ecosystem salubrious for businesses, just because it has made it worse, and it is right now a cash chamber and companies are literally suffocating. This recent case study on news is another example of what is wrong with Indian bureaucracy in Indian business ecosystem, and the reason why I'm so pissed off all these things.
अमन गुप्ता, शार्क टैंक में जरा चेंज करो अपने पर्सपेक्टिव्स को. We are focused on food delivery app. दुकानदारी का ही काम करना है हमें. Our ambitions are to compete with the best in the world. But I can't take to them grocery stores and say this is India's offering for startups.
What if I told you that removing just one word from a company could destroy a 4,370 crore beer empire overnight? This is a shocking true story of how India's coolest craft beer brand Bira 91 went from being the fastest growing beer company to facing employee revolts and complete production shutdown. In December 2022, Bira 91's parent company made what seemed like a tiny change. They removed word private from their legal name, changing from B9 Beverages Private Limited to B9 Beverages Limited. They thought this would help them prepare for their planned IPO 2026. Instead, it triggered the most catastrophic business disaster in Indian startup history. Here's why this was devastating. India's alcohol industry operates under a nightmare of state-by-state regulation. Each of India's 28 states treat alcohol licensing separately, with their own excise laws, legal approvals, and product registration. So when Bira changed their name, every single state government treated them as a completely new company. So the result? All sales were immediately banned across India. The company had to literally re-register every single beer variant, get a fresh label approval, and obtain new licenses in operating states. This process took freaking 4 to 6 months, which is nauseating in itself, during which Bira has literally zero sales despite massive demand. They were forced to write off 80 crore worth of unsold inventory sitting in the warehouse. So you can pretty much imagine the financial carnage was brutal. Revenue crashed 22% to 638 crore, while losses exploded to 68% to 748 crore, meaning their losses were actually exceeding their total revenue. Sales volume collapsed from 9 million cases to just 6 to 7 million cases. So there are a million things that are wrong with Indian bureaucracy and Indian business ecosystem, but specific to India's alcohol industry is what most people don't know. India's alcohol market is essentially 28 different countries. State like Uttar Pradesh collect 39,600 crore annually, which is massive from alcohol taxes alone. While the state like Bihar and Gujarat have complete prohibition, which is absolutely fine, as this is the only thing that is certain in the whole Indian alcohol industry. The place you can officially sell it and the place you can't. But apart from this, everything is going haywire in the Indian alcohol industry. And this complex web of regulation has killed many businesses, but none as dramatic as Bira. So Indian businesses are supposed to function in a country where recent data shows that 90% of Indian startup failures in 2024 were due to regulatory compliance issues, not market problem. From Paytm's RBI ban to Blue Smart's sudden shutdown, compliance failure are the silent startup killer that nobody talks about. Fast forward to October 2025, over 250 employees have signed a petition demanding founder Ankur Jain's removal, citing 6 months of unpaid salary and governance failures. Production stopped completely in July 2025. BlackRock withdrew their 500 crore investment deal. The company that once was valued at $450 million and planned the IPO now owes 50 crore in employee dues and have kept the worst for the last. The human cost is staggering. The workforce has been slashed from 700 to just 260 employees. Tax deduction haven't been deposited. Provident funds payments have been stopped in March 2024. The company that once dominated India's craft beer revolution has virtually disappeared from retail shelves. So the brutal lesson for all of us, in India's complex regulatory environment, One seemingly minor administrative change can destroy decades of work and billions in value. Even Diageo India learned this the hard way. They have kept the name United Spirit instead of changing it to Diageo India Limited, specifically to avoid these regulatory nightmares. This is why India needs urgent regulatory reform. When removing one word can kill 437 crore company, something is fundamentally broken in this system. Share this if you're as shocked as I am by how one word destroyed India's coolest beer brand. And specifically, share this to those bureaucrats, those government employees, those governments who are actually becoming a termite to the whole Indian business ecosystem. And specifically, share this to those bureaucrats, those government employees, those government who are becoming a termite to this whole Indian business ecosystem and who are actually eating up the future of this country, because the damage they are doing right now is taking India to those Babu era where Babus used to control each and everything and where Indian businesses failed like anything. This is a recent and one of the biggest example of how Indian government and all the state government are destroying the future of this country in the name of chronic capitalism just to promote 2 to 3 players in the whole country. Because mind well, it is not just 2 to 3 players who actually employ the mass of the country. It is those MSME sectors and the small startups who actually employ the mass of the country. And if we are destroying this country, most of us won't be employed anymore.